hey everybody, I got a big one ahead of me today, and for me to say that, you know I'm going the distance. I'm heading out to a big chunk of property to do some scouting, surveying, looking for colonial home sites. It's gonna be a big trip, so stay tuned. All right, well, here we go. Today is an exploring day. There's this massive piece of property out here, right? And the guy who owns it lets people come in and metal detect, use it for recreation, whatever. My approach today is using the logic of the original charter grants for early settlers. These towns were outlined and then cut up into grids. We have located several home sites way out here, but I need to go beyond that. I've just walked 15 minutes to start here, and now I've got, I think, about 1.5 miles that way, following this twisty, windy road. And the thing about the twisty, windy road that goes through these forests, and the logic of my approach today, is that these grids were all laid out perfectly north to south, east to west. So when we come across these walls out here that run with those grids, we know we're in an early grant square. So we're going to head out there until the trail, cart path, old road takes us to one of these walls that runs to the north. And I'll explain more as we get out there as to what makes me look where I look for old home sites. And a bit more of the backstory is this part of New Hampshire was granted in the early 1700s, and a lot of the settlers didn't make it out here until about the 1730s. So it's old ground for sure. Okay, so I've landed at my first wall. Now the thing about these charter grants, realistically when you look at them, the east to west walls, which this is one of them, dead on. For our area of New Hampshire, this consistency rings true. I don't know about anywhere else, but I know in this area, and I know it well, that all of the north to south walls have a tendency to just kick back a bit to the west. Now, inside these large squares that were granted to families or individuals, well, most of the time they tend to have had a home site, or if the land was really bad, it was just used for grazing or pasture. But the thing that stays true is the land that was granted to them, they built their walls dead on to what was granted to them. And something that hadn't made sense up until recently was, when we're out in an area like this, inside of these big squares, we would find other fields, rock walls that were just kind of at random. But I got it figured out. This wall right here is inside of one of the big squares, one of the earlier grants. And I've walked all these walls and I can line it up to those old maps. So what have I come up with for these odd walls, or smaller squares, or just oddly shaped cleared areas inside the big squares? Well, it's from the later occupants. More like late 1700s into the 1800s. These people cleared these bigger lots, but realistically they followed the contour of the land or just built the walls around what was usable. So that's why you guys see me out following the walls in these bigger lots, looking for things like this. Now I show you this because this is how a site was found right over there several years ago. And you look into the history and it's the same old thing. Early settlers grant, but the occupants that were at that home site were late 1700s into the early 1800s. So here's what I have to do today. These lots are roughly about 100 acres. They're massive. 100 acres to walk through this is pretty daunting. And I have to go through 3 of them before I run into new road or out of this guy's property. So let's go. So I'm not walking at random out here. I'm following the ridge lines. Makes the most sense. Well, there's one of our big walls that just goes on and on and on. So we've reached the boundary line of our first square. Nothing really to report out there. At least, you know, cutting through where I cut through. Doesn't mean that there's not the possibility of a home site, but we'll keep moving. Well, that's a beautiful section of the woods. Just completely changed walking into this low-lying area. I think we're going to be hitting some wetlands soon. Oh yeah, down in there. Wow, I can actually hear the water running. Here we go. This is what I'm talking about. This wall does not follow in line with the north, east, west, south grid pattern, right? And it goes right through what is now marshland, telling us that when this wall was built, that was not marshland. So as it's proven time and time again, when you get inside the big square and you find little patterns of walls and stuff, that means somebody was occupying it, as opposed to just laying out, this is my property, and they did whatever with it. And holy mackerel, is it getting thick in here real quick. Jeez. I'm excited though. That wall was a bonus. Yeah, so our oddball wall goes right across the river up over there. And that's exactly where I need to go. I need to stay inside these walls and explore on that side. Now this is where it's going to get more difficult going up into that. And it don't look good. Yeah, so I've come in a bit. That's a grand up. That's where we need to go. And, you know, I was just thinking to myself, one of those subconscious things that you don't think of, but it's always working for you. The sound of that river back there. Point of reference. Alright, so that's where I just came up from. As you can see, relatively speaking, this is good land. And I'm basically on a plateau. It goes back down over that way. So now what I need to do is just, well, walk around and look up here, see if I can find any minute signs that somebody did something up here. All in all, this is just like one of the squares I did, oh, a month or so ago. I took you guys along and it was just beautiful up top. Great place for building, but you can miss these cellar holes by tens of feet. Oh, now there we go. Look at that. Can you see that? Just on the other side of that down tree is a small stitch of wall. Oh, is that a hole? Jeez. Looks like stacked rock to me. And then again, right over there we have 20 feet of wall. And yeah, I don't bring my detector on days like today because it's going to take time, you know, hours, miles, and I just need to pack lightly. Obviously, I'm going to have to come back, but that's fine because this is the most difficult part of the process. Well, this is intriguing. It's definitely something. We are so far out, we're inside a big Grant square where there was a smaller section of walls, and then further in up on the hill is this. What a spot for a house though. It's like literally on the side of this slope, and it's not level by any way. Well, the only way we're going to be able to confirm this one is coming out with the metal detectors, getting that one relic I just looked around. That's it. It's like a bulb, a plateau. This on the easterly bank. What I'm going to do is head into the next square, see if we can do the same thing, and I'm going to have to just find my due west and go. And we'll definitely be back for this one. And that's why we look around. 50 feet away. I'm guessing that is the actual cellar hole. So that must be a little barn or something. I mean, it's pretty square and lipped. I don't see that it's rock lined, but that doesn't mean anything out here. Oh wow. Oh wow, it's starting to rain, and I hope it doesn't pour because I am way out. Alright, well this is good. This is really good. Here's a strong, definite sign you're in the right neighborhood. I just walked down from our presumed cellar hole, and we have a nice colonial bridge. Big stones in the middle of nowhere. So we're definitely in the old neighborhood. Alright, I'm going to keep on heading on. I'm guessing that the people in these lots didn't stay long, because there's not much improvement upon the land. Very few walls. And no recorded history other than these chunks of land being granted to a particular group of individuals. Alright, well I've isolated the second square. I know I'm in it, but the terrain is a lot less forgiving, so navigating is definitely not as easy. Well, that's it. I'm pretty convinced there's nothing in this square. I started out in number 1, where we've confirmed and worked that home site. 2, the one we just found shortly ago. And this is 3, and it's bad. And then the next one up definitely has a home site on it. So all in all, a great day. One more for the map, and the opportunity for us to come back, metal detect it, and see what we can find for relics. Hope you guys enjoyed this. It's another day in logging the process of how these things get done, and we'll see you soon. Until next time, enjoy your Not Thursday.
Looking out, trying to find all the things I've left behind. Looking out, I'm on my